This is Shuttle Launch Control. We have now joined history's largest crew of astronauts in the operations and checkout building as they wait for their breakfast. The 7-person crew is the largest ever to be launched into space by any nation, and in fact is as large as the entire Mercury program astronaut corps was 21 years ago. At the head table in the center is Mission Commander Bob Crippen, and the other members are displayed about him on either side. To Bob Crippen's immediate left is Sally Ride on her second trip into space. Bob Crippen, of course, has completed 3 trips. This will be his fourth mission in space. Seated to Commander Crippen's right is Kathy Sullivan. She's a space rookie, of course, on her first mission. And to her right is Canadian Marc Garneau. And we'll be panning around a table here to see the other crew members as well. This is Jon McBride and Paul Scully-Power, noticeable for his beard. He's the payload specialist, and Jon McBride is the pilot on this particular flight. At the opposite end of the table was Mission Specialist 3, David Leestma. And we understand that the crew is, at this point, beginning to make their way out of the crew quarters. And we see Commander Bob Crippen and Sally Ride leaving the crew quarters, followed by Kathy Sullivan and Marc Garneau of Canada, distinctive with a maple leaf flag on his flight suit. Paul Scully-Power with the beard, and also followed by George A, several of the support team astronauts and security personnel, all climbing into the elevator to go down to the ground floor. Crew now leaving the operations and checkout building, led by the 2 women on this flight, Kathy Sullivan and Sally Ride. Commander Crippen and all the other crew members for history's largest astronaut crew, climbing into the Astrovan, which is a modified camper-style vehicle. Incidentally, that camper vehicle was purchased by NASA because of the increasing size of shuttle flight crews. The former vehicles were proving just too small to carry all the people for the 9-mile trip out to the flight pad, the launch pad. Crews being sent off by a crowd of media representatives and employees, which traditionally gather at the walkway leaving the operations and checkout building. And the Astrovan will move off in just a few seconds for the 9-mile trip out to launch pad 39A. Bob Crippen now donning his helmet. He'd already put on his vest. This procedure, of course, is very familiar to Bob Crippen. He's had 3 launches already in space and numerous tests where he's donned this equipment. Commander Crippen, at 47 years of age, is the old man of this particular mission. He was born in Beaumont, Texas, and he joined the astronaut corps in 1969. He was selected to be the pilot of the first space shuttle mission with John Young, and has since flown 2 other space missions for a total of 3. This makes him NASA's most experienced shuttle astronaut. He's one of the 5 members of this mission with naval backgrounds. Commander Crippen is listed as a Navy captain. He was a naval attack pilot aboard the carrier USS Independence for more than 2 years before joining NASA. Mission Specialist 1, Kathy Sullivan, now boarding Challenger's cockpit. And Dr. Sally Ride is now entering Orbiter Challenger for her second flight into space. The technician wiping down the soles of her shoes to make sure that no excess dirt would be tracked into the Orbiter Challenger, rather.
And NTD MS2 radio check.
Yeah, MS2, you're coming in loud and clear. How me?
Okay, you're kind and loud and clear, too.
About to enter Challenger's cockpit now is Canadian Marc Garneau, who is the first Canadian selected to fly in space aboard a space shuttle. Garneau is also a PhD with a specialty in electrical engineering. He's an employee of the Canadian Navy and is along on this mission to perform primarily 10 experiments in 3 different scientific fields for Canada. He's one of 6 Canadian astronauts selected earlier this year for training and eventual flight. And now entering Challenger's cockpit is Paul Scully-Power. Scully-Power is the most recent addition to this crew list. He's a civilian employee of the U.S. Navy, and he has considerable experience and time performing oceanographic research as a senior scientist or chief scientist on 24 research cruises. He was born and educated in Australia and has since become a United States citizen. He will be conducting a wide range of oceanographic studies for the Navy during the flight.
T-minus 15. T-minus 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Go for main engine start. 7, 6. We have main engine start. 5, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have SRB ignition, and the history's largest astronaut crew is on its way.
Houston controlling now. All main engines running at 100%. Roll program initiated, 120-degree roll maneuver to put the ship on its 57-degree inclination with the crew heads down and wings level. Throttling down to 92%. Main engines running smoothly, throttling down now to 65%. Challenger going through the period of max Q of maximum dynamic pressure on the ship. Engine performance still stable. APUs all running smoothly. Velocity.
Challenger Houston, go at throttle up.
Go throttle up.
All main engines back at 100% of thrust. Velocity 2,000, 3,000 feet per second now. Altitude 11 miles, distance downrange 8 miles. Challenger climbing at the rate of 1,800 feet per second. Engine performance still looks good. All engines are running at 100% of rated thrust. APU performance is nominal. Altitude 4,200 feet. Altitude 18 miles, 19 miles. Velocity 4,800 feet per second. Distance downrange 20 nautical miles.
DC less than 50.
That call precursor to SRB separation, which should come momentarily.
And we have SRB set.
And nominal
Separation.
All 3 engines still running.
Challenger Houston, first stage performance nominal.
Roger, nominal first stage.